Hello, dear CA Foundation student. I hope you are studying well for your exam. Yes, it is just round the corner. Now, in this video, we are going to discuss the RTP applicable for the December 22 attempt. And this, I'm not just going to discuss the questions. I'm going to teach you how to frame your own answers, because this is one very common query of every CA Foundation student. Ma'am, we know the theory, we know the concepts very clear, we know the solution, but we don't know how to frame the answer. So I am going to teach you how to identify the answer from the question itself. What is to be written in provision, what is to be written in facts of the case analysis, and what is to be written in conclusion, how to end your answer. So after watching this video, you will feel that, ma'am, it was so easy and we were feeling tensed for no reason. So watch the video till the end, because in each and every question, I'm going to teach you how to identify the facts, the analysis part from the question itself. Okay. Very soon we are also going to start the live revision sessions. To do subscribe to this channel and also hit the bell icon so that you get notifications for the revision videos. So let's get started. But before we do that, do one thing. Go bring a notebook, a pen, a highlighter with you, and make notes while watching this video. So while reading the question, I'll explain what is to be written in provisions, facts of the case analysis, how to identify the solution from the question itself, what are the hints in the question. So you take down these notes while watching the video, and watch the video till the end, because we are going to discuss each and every question in this particular format. Do you know that most of your paper consists of case-based question? Although the weightage of case-based question and the theory question is equal, but the number of case-based questions are more than the theory questions. For more practice, you can refer the compiler, which is available on my website, capreetiaggarwal.com. This compiler consists of all the past exam questions, study material, RTP, MTP questions arranged unit-wise. So you will get intensive practice and it will prepare you for the case-based questions to be asked in the exam. Okay, I'm leaving a link of the compiler in the description box. Go check the compiler and order it now. Question 1. Let's read the question. Mr. Y is a devotee and he wants to donate an elephant to the temple as a core part of the ritual worship. He contacted Mr. X, who wanted to sell his elephant. Mr. X contracted with Y to sell the elephant for 20 lakhs. Both were unaware that the elephant was already dead a day before the agreement. Referring to the provisions of the Indian Contract Act, explain whether it is void, voidable, or a valid contract. Now, you are aware, and I have discussed this in my earlier videos also, that the format to be followed for a case-based question is, you will first start by writing the provisions. Okay, in this part, you will only mention the theory, section number, case law, if any. You will not write anything about the question. You will only write the theory part relevant to the question. So here we will write the theory. We will quote the section number, the name of case law, if any. You need not explain the case law in detail. They're not expecting you to explain the case law. Name is sufficient. Sometimes, yes, if the question is based directly on the case law, then you will have to write the name as well as the explanation in your own words. So you will write a theory, section number, and name of the case law. After you discuss the entire theory relevant to the question, then you will write the facts of the case. Here you will write the facts in your own words. Sentences can be picked up from the question itself. You can combine 2 or 3 sentences and write it in your own words. Don't copy the entire question. Examiner is not interested in reading that again. In analysis, you will mention the solution. You will offer your opinion. The solution will be mentioned in the analysis part of it. And finally, conclusion. Conclusion will start with hence, therefore, since, it is so concluded. From the above, we can conclude that the party should be advised accordingly. So this is how we will mention the solution. All right, so let's get started. And first we will identify the act to which the question relates. So this question relates to the Indian Contract Act 1872. So before you begin with the solution, you will write that this relates to the So write along with me the Indian Contract Act 1872. You may feel that, ma'am, it is going to take a lot of time and we don't have this time. We have to prepare for exam. But trust me, students, after solving these 17 questions, you will gain immense confidence. And this is how we teach in the video lectures also. We teach you how to identify the solution from the given question itself. So if your concepts are very clear, I don't think case-based questions will be an issue for you. Okay, so this relates to the Indian Contract Act 1872. All right, you can use short forms. I'm also going to use a lot of short forms. Sentences you can frame it later on your own. I'm not going to give you the exact answer. I'm just going to help you to identify what is to be written in provision. So we are going to write pointers. You can elaborate that later. Okay, so now how to identify the solution to this question. See, the hint is given in the question itself. Mr. Y is a devotee and he wants to donate a temple. He wants to donate an elephant to the temple. So he is in search of a seller. Mr. X, he is the owner of an elephant and he wants to sell the elephant. So they both enter into an agreement, but unknown to both of them, the elephant was already dead at the time of agreement. Now, this question can be answered in two ways. The first, which ICAI has followed, is that it is not possible to perform this contract because the subject matter does not exist at all. So this is initially impossible. The contract is void right from the beginning. So ICAI has followed that view that it is initially impossible, section 56. Alternatively, students, you can also answer this question considering that it is a bilateral mistake of fact. Yes, it is a bilateral mistake of the existence as to the subject matter. The elephant does not exist and these parties are not aware of it. So there is mistake as to existence of the subject matter of agreement. So you can answer this question according to section 20, bilateral mistake or mutual mistake as to the existence of subject matter of the agreement. Now I will give you both the solutions. Both are correct and they are accepted in the exam. Now let's see what ICAI has written. Okay, so we will frame the answer according to that. Now in this case, both are not aware that the contract cannot be performed. It is initially impossible to perform the contract. Contract is void right from the beginning. So what we need to do is mention about initial impossibility. I am not going to write anything related to the question right now. I'm not writing what is the story or the fact of the case, just pure theory. So we will write about initial impossibility, which is covered under section 56. Okay, so what will you write about initial impossibility? Here I will guide you later on. I think once you get the hang of it, I will not elaborate. Here I'll elaborate how you're supposed to frame this in a sentence form. So you can write that the parties were unaware of the death of the elephant. The contract cannot be performed right from the beginning. This initial impossibility makes the contract void ab initio. Okay, so that is how you will frame it into a sentence. Now, because of this initial impossibility, the contract is void right from the beginning. So what ICAI has done, that they have explained a void contract. Now, void contract is defined under section 2, clause J of the Indian Contract Act 1872. So you will write, as per section 2, clause J of the Indian Contract Act 1872, void means a contract which ceases to be enforceable by law becomes void when it ceases to be enforceable. Okay, so you can write, you can explain what is a void contract. Here they are considering that even though the word contract is mentioned in the question, it is to be understood as if it is an agreement. Okay, so because it is void ab initio. So if you want, you can also explain void agreement, which is nothing but void ab initio. Okay, so in the first paragraph, you will explain the meaning of the term void and you will write what is initial impossibility. Alternate solution which I gave you. Okay, alternatively, you can also explain mutual mistake. Mutual mistake is nothing but bilateral mistake, which is covered under section 20. You can also write it according to section 20, that is the subject matter ceases to exist. Okay, so you can write that there is mistake as to the existence of the subject matter necessary for the agreement. So you can write over here that there is a mistake as to existence of subject matter, okay, of the agreement. You can explain section 20. There also the agreement will be considered as void ab initio because it is mistake of both the parties. Okay, now in the facts of the case, what will you write? You just have to frame the question in your own words, just combine 2 or 3 sentences. So what will you write? Why a devotee wanted to buy elephant. ठीक है? So he approached X. So you have to write it in your own words. He wanted to buy an elephant. So he approached X, entered into a contract. Entered into contract. But unknown to both of them, okay, unknown to both, the elephant was dead. Okay, so I'm just writing pointers. You can elaborate later over here. Unknown to both of them, the elephant was already dead at the time of agreement. That is it. You don't have to write anything else. Solution will be written in the analysis part. Okay, I'm going slow right now. Later on, I will increase the speed once you know what is to be written where. So in the first provisions part, we explained initial impossibility. We wrote about void agreement. Or you can also say void contract and then say that here contract is constituted as agreement. Then you can write the facts in your own words. Y was a devotee. He wanted to donate an elephant. He entered into an agreement with X, but unknown to both of them, the elephant was already dead at the time of agreement. Now, what is the analysis? Now, in this case, X and Y have entered into an agreement, but the performance is impossible. They are not aware of the death of, or they are not aware of the non-existence of the elephant. The agreement is void ab initio. That is the solution. So you can write that X and Y entered into an agreement, but they were ignorant of the death. X and Y were ignorant of death of elephant. This is nothing but initial impossibility, which makes the contract void ab initio. So you can say that the contract is discharged due to impossibility of performance. Okay, so the agreement is void ab initio. It is impossible right from the beginning. Impossible right from the beginning. So parties are discharged. What will you write in the conclusion? So in conclusion, you will say that hence the agreement is void. It is not enforceable by law. Okay, so that is a conclusion. Hence the agreement is void and this agreement is not enforceable by law. This is the conclusion. You may feel that, ma'am, we are repeating so many points again and again, but because the question is so small, okay, there is not much to write. You may end up writing mostly the same thing in analysis as well as conclusion. Okay, so in this case, what will we write? X and Y were ignorant of the death. The contract is not capable of being performed right from the beginning. It is void ab initio. Then in the conclusion part, you will say that the agreement is void. It is not enforceable by law. Now let's read a solution given by ICAI. So as per section 2J, okay, can you see the solution clearly? Yes. Okay, so as per section 2J of the Indian Contract Act, a contract which ceases to be enforceable by law becomes void when it ceases to be enforceable. This is nothing but the definition of void contract. Okay, then they have written that they have also mentioned about impossibility. I'll just highlight that for you. So here they have mentioned about void agreement. The fact of impossibility may or may not be known to the party. The here contract will be constituted as agreement. It is impossible right from the beginning. So they have explained void agreement. They have explained impossibility. Then in this case, X and Y, they were ignorant of the death of the elephant. Therefore, the performance is impossible right from the beginning. It is void ab initio. Since the agreement is void, it is not enforceable by law. So more or less, they have also written whatever we have discussed, but it's only written in sentence form and it's slightly confusing. So what I have written is simplified version of the solution. All right, students. So this is the expectation of ICAI. You have to write everything in sentence form. Now, let us read the second question, and I think now you will start getting a fair idea of how exactly the question or the answer is to be framed. Okay, so let's read the second question. In light of the above provisions, I'll just move the now, is it clear now? Okay. In the light of the above provisions of the Indian Contract Act, answer the following. A student was induced by his teacher to sell a brand new bike to the latter at a price less than the purchase price. Is a very commonly asked question and a very frequently asked question. It is a past exam question. You will find this in my compiler also. A student was induced by his teacher to sell his brand new bike to the latter at a price less than the market price to secure more marks in the examination. Immediately, as soon as you read the word, he was induced by his teacher and he is is a student, immediately it should click, this is undue influence. Yes. So the first provision that we will write is something about free consent, and then we will explain undue influence. Accordingly, the bike was sold. However, father of the student persuaded him to sue the teacher, whether the student can sue the teacher, and if yes, on what grounds. Now, how will you frame the answer? See, you have to write about undue influence, but you cannot just start by writing about undue influence. You have to create some background. So, what will you say? You can write that contracts where consent is obtained by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, then the contract is voidable at the option of the party whose consent is so obtained. So, in short, you are explaining a voidable contract. Yes. So, contract where the consent is obtained by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, or it is voidable at the option of the party whose consent is so obtained. It means the aggrieved party. Then from all this, our question relates to undue influence. So next is you will explain undue influence. Now pay attention, students. In the model answer, the ICAI has not explained undue influence, but I think to create length and because it is relevant, I think it'll be better if you explain what is undue influence along with the section number. Okay, so you will write down the definition of undue influence. I'm not discussing it because I think you're already aware of that. Now let us discuss what you're supposed to write in the provisions part. What will you write? Firstly, we will say that this question relates to the Indian Contract Act 1872. So first we will identify the act and write it over here. The Indian Contract Act. So this is nothing but writing practice while watching the video. Yes. So you will first explain that contracts where consent is obtained by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation. I'm using all short forms. The contract is voidable at the option of the party whose consent was so obtained. Then you will explain undue influence. Okay, you will explain undue influence, section 16. So undue influence means there is some kind of moral or mental pressure between the persons whose relations are such that one person is in the position to dominate the will of the other person, and he uses that position to obtain unfair advantage. So you can explain undue influence, although in the model answer they have not explained. Then what will you write in the facts? You just have to convert the question in your own words. So what is happening? Student was induced by teacher to sell his bike at less than the purchase price. So what will you write? Student was induced by teacher to sell bike for less than the purchase price. Student sold the bike. That's it. Okay, so he sold the bike. And you can also write father asked him to file a case, but I think that will be giving too much information in the facts, which is already available in the question. Examiner is not interested in reading all that again. What is the analysis? See, now the entire case is based on undue influence. So who is exercising undue influence? The teacher. You can say that since the teacher is in the dominating position, yes, the teacher is in the dominating position, the teacher can easily influence the student. See, now you're explaining it in your own words, something about this domination or undue influence. So you can say that since the teacher is in the dominating position, the teacher can easily influence the student. Okay, influence the student. Now, because there is influence, you can say that the contract is voidable at whose option? At the option of the student. So the next sentence which you will write is that the contract is voidable at the option of the student. You have to explain who is in the dominating position. Teacher. Because the contract is voidable at the option of the person whose consent is so obtained, right? So in this case, you have to show who is in the dominating position and at whose option the contract will be voidable. So you will say that the teacher is in the dominating position. The teacher is in the position to influence the student. So student is the aggrieved party. Contract is voidable at the option of the student. So that is your solution. In conclusion also, you will mostly write the same thing only. You will write over here, therefore, the contract is voidable at the option of student and he should be advised accordingly. The student can sue the teacher, he can cancel the contract. Okay, so you will say the student can sue the teacher. Now why have I written this? So because see, in the question they are asking whether the student can sue the teacher. So in your conclusion, you have to answer that question. So you will say, yes, the student can sue the teacher. They have also asked on what grounds. So you will write over here on the grounds of undue influence. So this is your conclusion as well as you are answering what was asked in the question. Let us go through the answer now. So in the first paragraph, that is provisions, you have mentioned something about voidable contracts and you have also explained undue influence. Then you explain the facts of the case. After that, you have written that the teacher is in the dominating position because we want to show at whose option the contract will be voidable. So teacher is in the dominating position. Teacher can easily influence the student. The contract is voidable at the option of the student. In conclusion, you will write, yes, the contract is voidable at the option of the student. You will also answer what was asked in the question. The student can sue the teacher on the grounds of undue influence. Okay, so that is all about question 2. Now let us discuss the solution to question 3. But before that, okay, there is one more part. All right. So there is one more part, question 2, sub question 2. Okay, so let us read the sub question. All right, let me just scroll down. Okay, yes. Give the circumstances as to when vindictive or exemplary damages may be awarded for breach of contract. So you have to state the circumstances where the vindictive or exemplary damages may be awarded in breach of contract. Now, exemplary or vindictive damages, these are awarded only under two circumstances. One is breach of promise to marry and other is wrongful dishonor of check by the banker. So let us see what solution they have given. This is a theory question. You don't have to follow the provision, facts of the case analysis. This format is not to be followed. So I'll just erase this because we are not going to follow this format. Let us see what is the solution. So exemplary or vindictive damage, it's a theory question, you already know about it. It is awarded only under two circumstances. One is breach of promise to marry. Here again there is loss of goodwill, so the aggrieved party can claim damages from the other party. These vindictive damages or exemplary damages, they are also a kind of disciplinary damages wherein my aim is to punish the other party. The damages which may be awarded are generally more than the actual damage. Okay, then for wrongful dishonor of check by the banker. Now let's say for example that X had sufficient amount in his bank. He issued a check of 500 rupees to Y. Y deposited the check in his bank. Next day he received a call from the bank saying that, sir, the check which you deposited is dishonored. It bounced. What will Y think? अरे ये X कैसे business कर रहा है? He doesn't even have 500 in his account. He called up X. अरे X, what kind of a businessman you are? You don't even have 500 rupees in your account. X is like, no, I have 5 lakh rupees. Wait, I'll just check with my banker. He called the banker. Banker, you dishonored my check of 500 rupees wherein I have 5 lakh rupees in my account. Sorry, sir, it happened by mistake. Now, because of the mistake of the banker, X's goodwill, reputation got affected. He can claim damages from the banker. Now, these damages may be substantially more than the actual damage because there is a loss of goodwill. They have also mentioned that if X is a trader, okay, if X is a trader, so I have made notes for you. If X is a trader and the check is dishonored, the loss to a trader is substantially very high as compared to a non-trader. See, because it's a very it is a business community. So if your check is dishonored, your colleague will tell some other person, they will tell some other person, hey, this person had given check and his check is dishonored, don't transact with him. So my goodwill, my reputation can get affected in my line or my business community. So in this case where the check is wrongfully dishonored, you can recover damages which are substantially high than the actual damage, and you need not even prove that there was some actual damage. Okay, this is in case of a trader, but in case of a non-trader, like you are a regular person, you're not a businessman, then in this case you can recover exemplary or vindictive damages only if you file a case as special damage. Now what is the meaning of special damage? Now you have studied what is the meaning of special damage. Special damage means that it can be claimed only when there are special circumstances and they are communicated to the other party. If you have already communicated to the other party that, see, I am issuing this check and it is very important that it should be honored, then in that case you can claim special damages. Otherwise, if nothing is specified, then you will be entitled to only nominal damage. If you are not aware of this concept, then you can leave it in the exam. You need not write anything about a trader or a non-trader. If you feel that I have not studied, I will not be able to comfortably explain this in exam, you can leave it, absolutely no problem. You just need to write that exemplary or vindictive damage can be claimed under two circumstances and explain why they can be claimed under these two circumstances and what kind of damage will be caused to the aggrieved party. Mostly it is loss of goodwill, reputation of the party, feelings were hurt in case of breach of promise to marry. So these are valid grounds for claiming compensation. All right. But yes, this trader and non-trader part can also be mentioned. Let's go to the next question. Okay, I'll just shift back to this question 3. Okay, let's now decide what is to be written in the provisions part. Let's read the question first. Okay, so let's go to the question. Okay, Mr. Karan, he agreed to purchase a wooden table for his study room from Mr. X. The table was in good condition when it was examined by Karan before purchasing. He found no defects in it. He paid 20,000 for that table. Now wait. From this, you should first highlight that the table was examined by Karan before purchasing. It means the buyer had examined the goods before buying. Okay, now let us continue with it. He did not find any defect. Maybe the defects were well hidden. Later on, it was found that one leg of the table was broken and Mr. X had pasted the wood and he had tried to hide the defect. Wait, if your theory is perfect, if you have studied the theory properly, immediately it should click in your mind. This is nothing but active concealment of fact. The facts have been concealed in such a manner that the buyer will not come to know about it even after reasonable examination. This is nothing but active concealment. It is fraud. Mere concealment is not fraud. But active concealment, when the defects are concealed in such a manner that the buyer will not come to know about it even after reasonable examination, that amounts to fraud, and this is nothing but active concealment. So my answer is ready. While reading the question, while reading the sentences, immediately you should frame the answer mentally. Yes, you should be prepared. By the time you finish reading the question, you should know what is to be written where. Okay, so that kind of practice is required. Can Karan return the table? So in my conclusion part, I have to answer these questions. Can Karan return the table? Can he claim the amount back? Discuss with reference to the Indian Contract Act. So when I frame the answer, what will I write? The first thing that I need to write is that this relates to the Indian Contract Act 1872. Okay, so let me write that over here. The Indian Contract Act 1872. So this question relates to the Indian Contract Act 1872. Now, because it is related to fraud, I need to first explain what is the meaning of fraud, what is the definition of fraud. So first thing is we will define fraud. What is the meaning of fraud? It is given under section 17. When one party makes false representation of facts with the intention to cheat or to deceive the other party or to force him to enter or to force him to enter into an agreement, it is fraud. Okay, so first we will define fraud. Then students, you have to write, although it is not specifically mentioned in the model answer, but you have to write that mere concealment is not fraud. Why it is not fraud? What is the reason? Buyer has to check the product before buying. Buyer beware. This is given under the doctrine of caveat emptor. So you have to mention that also. Everything is related to the previous point. So what will you write? Mere concealment is not fraud. Why? Because the buyer has to check the product before buying. Buyer beware, the doctrine of caveat emptor applies. See, this is how you will elaborate the sentence. This is not about mere concealment. What is happening over here is active concealment. What is the meaning of active concealment? Active concealment means the defects are concealed in such a manner that the buyer will not come to know about it even after reasonable examination. This amounts to fraud. Yes, this is fraud. Now, because it is fraud, logically speaking, your next sentence should be that in case the contract is caused by fraud, It is voidable. Yes. So because of fraud, the contract becomes voidable. Which section can you quote over here? Yes, you will write section 19 because the contract is voidable, that is given under section 19. What will happen in this case? Because of the voidable contract, aggrieved party has two options, either to keep the contract as valid or, yes, the aggrieved party has the option to rescind the contract. Don't use the word cancel, that is a very simple word. So you use the word, you can rescind the contract and you can also claim damages. Yes. So what will you write in the first paragraph? You will explain fraud. You will write that mere concealment is not fraud, caveat emptor applies. But active concealment is fraud. Active concealment we have mentioned because it is relevant to the question. Then fraud makes the contract voidable. Voidable means that the aggrieved party can rescind the contract and claim damages. This is given under section 19. This is what you're supposed to write in the provisions part of it. Then what will you write in the facts? You will just explain the question in your own words. So you will say that Karan, okay, he agreed to purchase a table. He examined the table, but he did not find any defects. Later, when he used the table, he found that the leg was pasted. It was, yeah, that is what is written, right? It was pasted. Okay. We'll use that same word. It was pasted and to hide the defects. So the seller tried to conceal the defects. You can write that or you can ignore that. Okay, so later he found that the leg was pasted. The seller tried to conceal the defect. You can also use the word actively conceal the defect. Okay, it was concealed the defect. That's it. Don't write the solution that the contract is voidable, etc. That we will write in the analysis part of it. Then what will you write? So Karan, he examined the table, but he did not find the defect because it was hidden. So in this case, you will write the contract will now become voidable because the defects were concealed in such a manner that they could not be found even after reasonable examination. So the contract is voidable at the option of Karan. This active concealment, okay, this active concealment amounts to fraud. You can also explain that the defects were concealed in such a manner that he could not know about the defects even after reasonable examination. This active concealment amounts to fraud. Then also write that Karan can rescind the contract and he can claim damages. Okay, so this is my analysis. Then in conclusion, what will you write in conclusion? Answer the question which they have asked you. Can Karan return the table? So you will say yes, Karan can return the table. Will he get back his money? Yes, he will get back his money. And he will also be able to claim damages. He will also get damages. Okay, he can also claim damages for the loss caused due to the fraud of X. So elaborate on this. So what will you write? Yes, Karan can return the table. Yes, he can claim back the full price. He can also claim compensation for the loss caused to him due to the fraud of X. So this is how you will frame your answer. I hope you are able to understand. Yes. Let us go through the next question. I don't think I need to write it over here because it is very small. It is self-explanatory. It is just a one-liner question and the answer is also expected in one sentence only. So let us read the question now. Mr. X promised to bring life back to Mr. Y. Is the contract valid or not? That is their question. What will be the rights of the promisor in the following cases? Explain with reasons. So you just have to write in one sentence. It is a very small question. Mr. X promised to bring back life to Mr. Y. Is it possible? It is initially impossible. Section 56. So it is that both the parties are aware of the impossibility, but they still enter into this agreement. Agreement is void right from the beginning. It is initially impossible. Let's see how ICAI has answered this question. The contract is void because it is initially impossible. You can also write down section 56 over here. Okay. Next, A agreed to sell 50 kgs of apple to B. The loaded truck left for delivery on 15th March, but due to riots in between, it reached A on 19th March. So over here, it left for delivery for 15th March. Because the date is mentioned, immediately it should click time is essence section 55. Yes, they have not mentioned the section over here, but I think you can write that in the exam. So this relates to section 56. And time is essence is discussed under section 55. This is one very important section number for exam. Time is essence. Because the date is mentioned, we know that time is essence. Since the contract is not performed on time, it is voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. But they have not mentioned the word voidable. They have simply mentioned that the contract is discharged due to destruction of the subject matter, and time is also essence. So the contract is voidable. He can choose to cancel the contract because the goods did not reach on time. Acha. Now, nowhere it is written that the loaded truck left for delivery, but due to riots it was destroyed. Nowhere it is mentioned that the apples were destroyed. Yes, have they mentioned somewhere? No, it is not mentioned. So I don't know why they have written that the contract is discharged due to destruction of subject matter, because nowhere it is mentioned that the goods were destroyed, etc. It reached late. So I think even though they have mentioned this, you may not write in the exam, because it will not strike you only, as destruction is not mentioned in the question. So what will you write? You can simply say that the contract is voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. He can choose to either accept the delay, or he can cancel the contract and claim compensation. He can claim damages. Okay, so this can be avoided. Next question. An artist agreed to paint on a fixed rate for a fixed amount of remuneration, on a fixed date, on a fixed amount of remuneration, but we met with an accident and he lost both his hands. This contract is based on the skill and the personal consideration of the promiser. Now, the promiser is not in the position to perform the contract. The parties are discharged. Okay, so this is discharge due to death. Normally, death is not a way to discharge the contract, because the contract can be performed by the legal representative. But what if it involves personal skill, personal consideration? Then the contract is discharged. So this relates to discharge of contract. Since the contract is of personal nature, it cannot be performed due to that impossibility of performance. Parties are discharged. So you can also write that it is discharged due to the death of the promiser resulting into impossibility. This is also covered under section 56 only. All right. Next. Abhishek entered into a contract to import toys from China, but due to disturbance in the relation between the country, the imports were banned. So there is change in law. The contract is not possible to be performed. It is void. Parties are discharged. So contract is discharged because of subsequent illegality. There is change in law. There is subsequent illegality. You can also write supervening impossibility, section 56. So the contract is discharged due to supervening impossibility, section 56. So here also we can write supervening impossibility, section 56. Okay, let's now proceed with the fifth question. This is more or less a theory type of question, but still we can write on the pointers. Minor, okay, where is the question? Question says that though a minor is not competent to contract, nothing in the act prevents him from making the other party bound to the minor. Yes, minor is not capable of contracting, but he can be the beneficiary. He can enter into contracts which are for his benefit. He can't be the promiser, but nothing in the act stops him from being the promisee or the beneficiary. So what are the pointers? Here you will not write facts of the case analysis. Here you only need to write the theory. So what is the theory that you will write? Yes, you will write that minor is not competent to contract. You can also write section 11, although they have not mentioned that in the model answer, but you can write section 11 because it discusses about the competency. So minor is incompetent to contract. Yes, any agreement with minor is void ab initio. You can then proceed to write that minor cannot be a promiser, but minor can be promisee or beneficiary. Then explain this. Minor can be a promisee or a beneficiary. Minor can enter into contracts which are for his benefit. Give example, otherwise you will not be able to create length in this answer. So what example can you give? That minor sold goods to X. This contract is valid. It can be enforced by the minor. If minor does not get money for his goods, he can file a case. Okay, X executed a promissory note in favor of a minor. It means he is promising to pay money to the minor. Yes, this is a valid contract. You can promise to pay money to the minor. So promissory note executed in favor of the minor, that is valid. There is one more point which they have mentioned in the model answer, that is about whether minor can be admitted as a partner or not. See, ideally, partnership is a relation, partnership is the result of an agreement. Minor cannot enter into an agreement. But under certain circumstances, wherein the admission is with the consent of all the partners, it is for the benefit of the firm, then in that case, minor can be admitted. So we will write that also. So what will you write? That minor cannot be a partner, because this is the basic point. Partnership is the result of an agreement. Minor cannot enter into an agreement. So minor cannot be a partner in the partnership firm. However, under exceptional circumstances, minor can be a partner only with the consent of all the partners. Okay, consent of all, and if he is admitted to the benefit of the firm. Okay, so he will not be personally liable. He will be entitled to the profits, and he will bear the loss only to the extent of his share in the profit and property. So if he is admitted to the benefits of the firm, okay, then in that case, admission of a minor is valid. So what have I written over here? That minor is ideally not competent to contract, but he can enter into contracts which are for his benefit. He can be promisee, he can be beneficiary. Then you will give examples and you will write that minor can be admitted as a partner if it is for his benefit. So anything which gives benefit to the minor, that is valid. Okay, so this is sufficient for a 4 to 5 mark question. So this is what you will write over here. Let us proceed to the next question. Question 6. Now we come to the Sale of Goods Act. Okay, so this is the solution to question 6. Let us read the question first. C bought a bun from a baker's shop. The piece of the bun contained a stone which broke C's tooth. What are the rights available to the buyer under the Sale of Goods Act? It is related to provision, eatable. Immediately it should click in your mind that this is condition as to wholesomeness. See, the goods should be of merchantable quality. They should be fit to be sold, and if it is related to a provision or it is related to something which can be consumed, then it is covered under condition as to wholesomeness. Now, how will you frame the answer? The first thing that we write is the act to which it relates. So it relates to the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Okay, so this relates to the Sale of Goods Act. What will you write in the provisions part? Now you tell. What will you write? Start thinking. Yes, you will explain condition as to wholesomeness. What is the meaning of wholesomeness? Wholesomeness means that we assume the goods, if they are provisions, or if there is something which can be consumed, or it is an eatable, we assume that the goods are fit for human consumption. So you need to mention that in your answer, that it is fit for human consumption. Then you can also write that there is another condition as to merchantability. Merchantability means we assume that the goods are fit to be sold in the market. Yes, they should be of good quality, something which can be sold in the market. Then how will you explain the facts of the case? You will say that C bought a bun, but the bun contained stone, and C broke tooth. Okay, he broke his tooth. This is what you will write in the facts. What will you write in the analysis part now? What solution will you give? That in this case, there is breach of condition as to the wholesomeness. Yes, so you will write there is breach of condition as to wholesomeness, and there is breach of condition as to merchantability also. What happens in breach of condition? Yes, tell me what happens in breach of condition. The aggrieved party, okay, in case of breach of condition, the aggrieved party can terminate the contract. See, everything is happening logically. It is a flow. It is related to the previous point. You can terminate the contract, and you can also claim damages. Okay, so in this case, there is breach of condition as to merchantability, there is breach of condition as to wholesomeness. You can terminate the contract, and you can also claim damages. Now, what is the question that they have asked? What are the rights available to the buyer? So you can say that in this case, the buyer can terminate the contract and he is eligible to claim damages. So that is the conclusion. Or you can also say that C should be advised accordingly. C should be advised accordingly. It means that we have already given the solution and he should be advised accordingly. Okay, so this is the solution. Let us proceed. A contracts with B to buy 50 chairs of certain quantity on and certain quality. Okay, so in this case, A has contracted with B to buy 50 chairs. Keep this in mind. B delivers 25 chairs of the types agreed upon, and 25 he delivers chairs of some other type. It is not as per the description. There is mixing. Yes, there is mixing of goods that we ordered with goods we did not order of some different description. Okay, so under the circumstances, what are the rights available? What are the rights of A against B under the Sale of Goods Act? So here the goods should be as per description. They are not as per description. We are mixing the goods which we contracted with some other goods. There are various options available to the buyer. They just want you to write what are the options available with the buyer. Tell me, what are the options available with the buyer? So order was of 50 chairs. He delivered 25 chairs of the type ordered and 25 was something very different. They were not as per the description. What are the options available to the buyer? He is a crazy fellow. He can reject the entire quantity. So what is the option available? Reject everything. If we are rejecting, that doesn't mean that the contract is cancelled. The contract remains valid. It is subsisting. You now have to bring the chairs of the correct description. Okay. You can either reject, that is the first option. What is the second option? Yes, absolutely right. Accept what was contracted for and reject what was not contracted for. This is your solution. Okay. So now what will you write in the provisions part of it? Firstly, we will write that this relates to the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Okay. So we will write that first. This relates to the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Then what will you write in the provisions part? You will say that in case of mixing of goods of different description, buyer has two options. First is reject the whole. He's a very crazy sunky person. Reject the whole. He will ask the buyer to bring the contracted quantity and the description. Or he's a kind-hearted fellow. He can accept the chairs contracted for. Okay, of the description. And he can, this is first, and he can reject the rest. So he will accept 25 and he will reject the remaining. You need not write this over here, that we will write in analysis part. What will you write in facts of the case? It is very simple now. A contracted to buy, okay, I'll write it over here. A contracted to buy 50 chairs. But B provided 25 chairs which matched the description and 25 chairs which were of some different type. That's it. That is what you need to write over here. What is the analysis? In this case, now you will mention A and B. So in this case, A can either reject the entire quantity of 50 chairs. Now you will mention something related to the question. He can either reject the 50 chairs or he can accept 25 chairs which he had contracted for and reject the remaining 25 chairs. So this is possible because it is not as per the description. And what is the solution? They have just asked what are the rights. So we will say that A should be advised accordingly. Okay, so that will we will write in the conclusion. A should be advised accordingly. All right. So that is the solution. Let us proceed to the next question. I hope now you are getting a hang of it. Yes, you are able to understand. Okay. Next, this is now question 7. Ankit, very interesting question. This is the first time that ICAI has asked such a type of question. Very interesting question. Ankit needs a black pen for his exam. So he went to a nearby stationery shop and told the seller for a black pen. He asked him for a black pen. Seller gives him a pen saying that it is a black pen, but it was clearly mentioned on the packet that it is a blue ink pen. Okay. Ankit ignored that and he takes the pen. After reaching his house, Ankit finds that the pen is actually a blue pen. Now Ankit wants to return the pen with the words that the seller has violated the implied condition of sale as per description. What do you think Can he do so as per the Sale of Goods Act? What do you think? Can he do so? When he knew about the defect, when he knew that the goods are not as per his requirements, he should have rejected. But because he accepted, it means that you had examined the goods, you purchased in spite of knowing about the defect, contract remains valid. Will the rule of caveat emptor apply over here? Caveat emptor does not apply. Buyer has to blame himself for his bad selection. So in this case, the question relates to, you can write down Sale of Goods Act 1930. Now what will you write in provisions? That this is nothing but condition as to sale by description. What is the condition as to sale by description? That the goods must correspond to the description and in quality. Yes. So the goods should be as per the description, and they should also be of the quality that is mentioned in the description. Now in this case, buyer had the opportunity to examine the goods. He could easily find out the defect because it was written, it was not hidden. So you can say that the buyer could find the defect. So in this case, the rule of caveat emptor applies. Okay, caveat emptor will apply. What is meaning of caveat emptor? Buyer, you have to check the goods before buying. If the goods are defective, you had the opportunity to inspect the goods. You should have known about the defect, right, at that point. So in this case, the rule of caveat emptor will apply. Buyer, beware. Buyer, check the product before buying. Okay. So in this case, the rule of caveat emptor will apply because he had reasonable opportunity to examine the goods. So he already saw the pack. It was clearly mentioned over there. So over here, caveat emptor will apply. Buyer, beware. What will you write in facts of the case? So you will write that Ankit wanted to buy a black pen. Okay, he wanted to buy a black pen, but the seller gave him a pen which was blue in color. It was also mentioned on the pack. But even after reasonable examination, Ankit buys the pen. Later he finds that the pen was a blue pen. Okay, so you will write the facts. Then in analysis, what will you write? Analysis, you will write that Ankit was given a reasonable opportunity of comparing, a reasonable opportunity of examining the packet. He ignored to do so. The rule of caveat emptor applies. He will have to blame himself for his wrong or bad selection. So you will have to say that the buyer should check the goods before buying. It was visible on the pack. Ankit ignored it. So in this case, later when he finds, then he cannot blame the seller. The rule of caveat emptor applies here. Okay, so buyer must check the goods before buying. You cannot blame the seller. It was already mentioned on the pack. Ankit ignored it. The rule of caveat emptor applies. He will have to blame himself for his wrong or bad selection. So what will we write in the conclusion? Now what is asked in the question? The question says whether Ankit he wants to cancel the contract. Can he do so? No, you cannot. You say no. Ankit cannot cancel the contract. Okay, he cannot cancel the contract. He cannot return the pen because the rule of caveat emptor applies. So this is what you will write in the conclusion. Conclusion should be only of 1 or 2 sentences, not more than that. Let us proceed. Let us read the next question. This is a question which they have repeated. It is asked in the past also. Akash purchased a television. This is question 8. Akash purchased a television set from Jethalal, the owner of Gada Electronics, on the condition that he will keep it for the first 3 days and he will check its quality. And if he finds that it is of quality that he requires, if he's satisfied, he will pay for it. Otherwise, he will return it. Immediately, it should click in your mind, this is sale or return. Yes, either if you like it, you buy it, you keep it, or you return. Section 24 of the Sale of Goods Act. Okay. On the second day, the television set was spoiled due to an earthquake. All right. Jethalal demanded the price of the television set from Akash. Whether Akash is liable to pay the price, who will ultimately bear the loss? So they have asked you two questions. In the conclusion part, you will have to answer both these questions. But before that, you need to explain the, yes, sale or return basis. This relates to the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Okay, so we will write that this question relates to the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Section 24, it discusses sale on return, sale on approval or return basis. Let's write that. Sale on approval or return basis. Now in this case, what happens? When is the ownership transferred? Okay, ownership is transferred when the buyer gives his confirmation. That you will have to write. When does the ownership transfer? When the buyer gives his confirmation, when he gives his approval, or he does any act adopting the transaction. What is the meaning of adopting? He sells it further, or he pledges it further. It means that he has adopted the transaction. Or the time limit expired and he did not return the goods. Okay, time is over and he did not return. There was no time given. There was no time specified. Then after reasonable time expires, he has neither confirmed nor returned the goods. He has retained the goods, means he has become the owner of the goods. So in this case, even after a reasonable time, he has not returned. So it means he is interested in keeping the goods. Okay. So this is what you will have to write about goods sold on return basis. Now, in this case, you have to also mention that the goods are destroyed in an earthquake. So who will bear the loss? Has Mr. Akash become the owner? No, he has not become the owner because he had 3 days time and the goods are destroyed on the second day itself. So can I say that we also need to mention something about destruction of subject matter? Yes. So you will say that goods sold on approval. Okay. So sale on approval or return basis, this is nothing but an agreement to sell. Do you remember, in destruction of the subject matter, the provisions are different for sale and agreement to sell. So in case of agreement to sell, if the goods are destroyed before it materializes into a sale. Now there are two provisions which we are discussing over here. One is sale or return basis. Second is in case of agreement to sell, before it materializes into sale, during this period, if the goods are destroyed. Okay, during this period, goods are destroyed. Then in this case, who is the owner? Seller is the owner. Ownership is not transferred. Risk is not transferred. Seller is the owner. Seller will bear the risk. Seller will bear the loss. But students, it is also important for us to know that these provisions are applicable only in case of specific goods which are destroyed. So here the goods were specific. In case of agreement to sell of uncertain goods, provisions are different. There the contract is not discharged. You can get it from somewhere else. But if the goods are specific and the goods are destroyed before it materializes into sale, then in that case the contract will be discharged. The seller will bear the loss. Okay. So here the goods are specific. The goods are destroyed. We don't want any other goods. Seller is the owner. Seller will bear the loss. You can also say that the agreement is void. In case of uncertain goods, the agreement remains valid. Provisions are different. That is why we need to specifically mention that these provisions apply in case of specific goods. Okay. So a lot of theory is to be written. There are a lot of provisions which you have to mention over here. Okay. Then you will write the facts of the case, what is mentioned in the facts. I'm not writing it now because it will either consume a lot of time. I think you are now aware of what is to be written. So Akash purchased a television set from what is his name? Jethalal. Yes. So he purchased a television set from Jethalal. He was given 3 days time. On the second day, the goods are destroyed in an earthquake. That's it. You need not write anything more. What will you write in the analysis part of it now? Yes, you will say that the seller is the owner because it is just an agreement to sell. Buyer does not become the owner. So seller is the owner. Seller will bear the risk. Seller will bear the loss. Jethalal is, Akash is not the owner. Akash is not the owner. So he will not bear the risk. He will not pay the price. This is not sale. Okay. So you will write that seller will bear the loss. Akash will not bear the loss. He is not liable to pay the price. Now let us answer the questions which they have asked in the asked over here. Whether Akash is liable to pay the price. So you will say no. Akash, spelling mistake. Just a minute. Akash will not pay the price. Okay. Then who will ultimately bear the loss? You will say Jethalal is the owner and Jethalal will bear the loss. Okay. You can also elaborate by saying that since the confirmation was not given, there were 3 days time allotted to the buyer. He had not confirmed within the time period. The goods are not sold to Akash. Jethalal remains the owner. You can elaborate on that aspect also. So Jethalal is the owner, seller is the owner, J is the owner. He will bear the loss. He will bear the risk. Let us proceed to the ninth question now. When can an unpaid seller exercise the right of lien? It's a theory question, so I'll just jump to the solution directly. No need to write anything. Okay. When can he exercise the right of lien? Now, an unpaid seller has right against the goods, right of lien, right of stoppage, right of resale. Lien, he can retain the goods only when he is in the possession of the goods. Once he parts with the possession, he loses the right of lien, and at the same time, the right of stoppage in transit commences. So, right of lien means you have to write on the meaning. It means the right to retain the goods. You can retain the goods only when you are in the possession of the goods. When can you exercise the right of lien? See, when no credit period was given, you are supposed to receive the payment immediately. मुझे पेमेंट मिला ही नहीं, then I can exercise the right of lien because no credit period was given. Acha, credit period was given. It is over. I am unpaid. Luckily, the goods were with me. I can retain the possession of the goods. Okay. So in this case, the goods have been sold without any stipulation of credit, or they have been sold on credit, but the term has expired. Buyer has become insolvent. Luckily, the goods are with me. I will retain the goods. Unpaid seller can exercise the right of lien even when he has passed the ownership. See, lien is dependent on the possession. You have the possession, you can exercise the right of lien even if you are not the owner. Ownership is not considered while exercising the right of lien. We are not going to consider who is the owner. Seller, you are in the possession, you can exercise the right of lien. Possession is important. When does it terminate? When does the right of lien terminate? As soon as I transfer the possession to the buyer or his agent, right of lien is over. So when he delivers goods to the carrier, see, goods delivered to the carrier is as if the goods are delivered to the buyer because the buyer arranges for delivery. So goods given to carrier are as if they are given to the buyer. Lien ends. Any other, or it is given to any other bailey for the purpose of transmission to the buyer, that is it, without reserving the right of disposal. It means I gave the goods, I also gave the ownership documents. I did not reserve the right of disposal. When the buyer or his agent lawfully obtains the possession of the goods, even before they reach the destination, the buyer, he saw the truck and he says, go to the go down. Lien comes to an end. Okay, lien cannot be exercised. Let's discuss something extra. Is it that the buyer does not have any rights? A seller does not have any rights against the buyer? No. The transit comes to an end, lien comes to an end, doesn't mean that you don't have any remedy against the buyer. You don't have right against the goods, but you can file a case. You can recover money from the buyer by filing a case. You have rights against the buyer personally. Yes. So let us answer the question: can he exercise the right of lien even when is it terminated? We already discussed that. Can he exercise his right even after he has obtained a decree, order of the court for the price of goods from the court? The court has ordered the buyer to pay the price to the seller. Can the seller continue to retain the goods till the price is paid? Yes, of course. You cannot say, Are now the court has ordered, buyer will pay, seller return the goods to the buyer. No, seller can retain the goods till he receives the full price of the goods. Okay, so that is question 9. Let us now proceed. Let us go to question 10. Again, a case-based question. Most of your paper will be on case-based question. So for extra practice, you have to refer to the compiler because it contains more than 300 questions. All the possible questions are given in the compiler, and I'm telling you students, 100% guaranteed all the questions in your question paper will be from the compiler only. You will feel that you're just solving the compiler in the exam. So 100% guaranteed all questions will come from the compiler. I'm giving a link in the description box. You can go and check the compiler from that link. Let us proceed. Mohan, Sohan, Rohan, they are partners. Okay, now this question relates to Indian Partnership Act. All right. They admitted Bohan as a nominal partner on the agreement between all the partners. All right, for admission, you need the consent of all the partners. He is not entitled to a share in profit. Anyways, law does not require us to give profits. So he need not contribute capital. He need not even get a share in profits. He is not exactly a partner. But yes, we are using his name. So by an agreement, you can always give him profit. But here they have not agreed. After some time, a creditor Karan filed a suit against Bohan for recovery of his debt. Bohan denied for the same, as he is just a nominal partner and he is not liable for debts of the firm. So he is saying that I am not liable for debts of the firm. I am just a nominal partner. Karan should claim the money from other partners. All right. So taking into account the provisions of the Indian Contract Act, you have to answer whether Bohan is liable for dues of Karan against the firm. Okay. In case Karan has filed the suit against the firm, whether Bohan would be liable. So there are two questions which I need to answer in the end. But before that, what should I write in the provisions part of it? Hint is given in the question itself. They are talking about nominal partner. So you have to mention the provisions relating to a nominal partner. But before that, the question relates to the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Okay. Now you will mention something about nominal partner. Okay. You will write about nominal partner. Who is a nominal partner? He is a partner who lends his name. He has no interest in the business of the firm. He need not contribute capital. You need not give him the share of profit. But doesn't mean that he is not responsible as a partner. He will definitely be liable for acts of the firm. Okay, so this is something which we need to write. Okay, so what will you write? This is just the theory. He lends his name, he does not contribute capital, he does not get a share in profit, but he is liable for acts of the firm. Acha, something extra. He has become insolvent. Do we need to dissolve the firm? No. He became insolvent. Nominal partner became insolvent. You need not dissolve the firm. It is not a valid ground for dissolution. See, anyways, he is not actively participating in the business of the firm. So his insolvency is not a valid ground for dissolution. But what if he retires? Then do you need to give a notice of retirement? Yes, we need to give a notice of retirement because everybody is aware that he is a partner. So we need to give notice of retirement. So I have mentioned over here every possible detail about a nominal partner. Okay, so who is a nominal partner? He lends his name. He does not give capital. He need not give in share of profit. He is not liable. Sorry, he is liable for acts of the firm. He became insolvent. It is not a valid ground for dissolution. He retires. We need to give a public notice. So everything about nominal partner will be written. Now let us discuss what is to be written in facts of the case. I'm not writing. I'm just discussing orally. So Bohan was admitted as a nominal partner. Now, Karan, the creditor of the firm, filed a case to recover the debt from Bohan. Bohan refused to pay, saying that the debt should be recovered from the other partners. That's it. This is what you're supposed to write in the facts of the case. Now, let us continue. What is to be written in analysis? Bohan is a nominal partner. Is it that he is not liable for acts of the firm? No, no, no. Nominal partner will be liable for acts of the firm. He need not be given his share of profit, but he is liable for acts of the firm. So he is liable for acts. He need not be given his share of profit. He need not contribute capital. He need not participate in the business of the firm, in the day-to-day activities, but he will be liable for the acts of the firm. So in this case, you can conclude that Karan, the creditor, can sue Bohan and recover the amount. So Bohan will be liable. Now let us answer the questions which they have asked. So taking into consideration whether Bohan is liable for the dues, so you will write yes, Bohan is liable for the dues. Okay, for whatever is his share. In case Karan has filed a suit against the firm, whether Bohan would be liable. So yes, if he files a case, even then Bohan will be liable. So yes, Bohan will be. My answer is going to remain the same. So in this case, for part A, yes, he is liable. For part B, yes, Bohan is liable even if Karan files a case. So that is what I will write. Let us proceed to the 11th question. ABC, they are partners in Messrs. ABC and Company. The firm has decided to purchase a machinery. Okay, let's write something. Question 11. They have decided to purchase a machinery from LMN and Company. Before A and B purchase, this before word is very important for me. Before they could purchase the machine, C died. The machine was purchased, but thereafter A and B became insolvent. So, machinery was purchased after the death of C. Remember this point. This is the entire answer actually. The firm was unable to pay for the machine. Explain, would the estate of C be liable for the dues to Messrs. Okay, L, M, N, and Company? What do you think, students? See, the estate of the deceased partner is liable for the transactions taking place before his death. Is he liable for the transactions which take place after his death? No, the estate is not liable for the transactions after his death. Here, the machinery they were thinking about buying before his death, but the actual transaction took place after the death of C. His estate is not liable. So, what will you write over here? Death of a partner, section 35. So, we will start by writing that this question relates to the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Okay, now in this case we will quote section 35, which says the liability of the estate of a deceased partner. You can give the heading if you want. Liability of estate of deceased partner. Section 35 is very important for exam. There is one more section, section 37, that is also important for exam. Normally during the lectures we keep giving students hints that as to what is important for exam, which section they should learn. Now in this case the partner died. Yes, partner died. Now what happens is that his estate, here we are only writing the theory, we are not giving any solution, we just want to write something general. The estate will be liable for acts of the firm before death, but the estate will not be liable for acts of the firm after death. So we have mentioned something about death. If you want to write extra point, you can write that in case of death, public notice is not required. Public notice is not required. You need not give public notice. You need not give notice even to the people whom you are transacting with. Death itself is notice. Okay, so that itself is considered as a public notice. You need not separately give some public notice. Okay. Now, in the facts of the case, you can write that A, B, C, and Company, they decided to purchase a machinery from L, M, N, and Company, but the transaction was done, purchase was made after the death of C. Later on A and B became insolvent, and now they are demanding money from C's estate. Okay, so that is something which you can write in the facts of the case. What will you write in the analysis? Machinery was purchased. What will you write in analysis? Machinery was purchased after death of C. So since there was no transaction before his death, estate of C is not liable. Simple. That is the solution. You have written many things in the provisions itself. So here you need not write. You can directly jump to the solution. So you can state that estate of C will not be liable. Now let's see what questions have they asked. They are saying that explain would the estate of C. So here in conclusion you need not write anything. You can just write therefore estate of C is not liable because the transaction purchase of machinery was done after death, not before death. You can elaborate. You can write that the estate will be liable only for the transactions taking place before death. Since the transaction took place after the death, estate is not liable. Okay, let us proceed to the 12th question. We are almost coming to an end of our discussion, but I am discussing everything in detail so that after this you have good practice, good writing practice of what is to be written and how the answers are to be framed. G, I, and S, they were friends. They decided to form a partnership firm and trade in a particular type of chemical. After 3 years of partnership, a law was passed which banned the trading of such chemical. There is a change in law. They can no longer continue the business. This is compulsory dissolution. Section 41. As per the provision of the Indian Partnership Act, can they continue the partnership or will the partnership get dissolved? It is compulsorily dissolved. There is change in law. Now the business has become unlawful. So this question relates to the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Now I hope students you are getting a hang of it. Yes, how to answer the question, what is to be written in provision, what is to be written in facts of the case. This is how we discuss in the lectures also, that I teach students the method in which they should write the answers and how they should bifurcate provisions, facts of the case, analysis, and conclusion. So in provisions, you will write section 41. This is nothing but compulsory dissolution. Dissolution, wherein it is happening due to certain event which has now made it unlawful for the firm's business to be carried out. So a ban is imposed. It is not possible for them to continue the business. So it is now become unlawful. So section 41 is something which you will write in the provisions part. What will you write in facts of the case? So GIS, they started a business for trading of chemicals, but after 3 years of partnership, the government imposed a ban on the trade of chemicals. That's it. Then what will you write in the analysis? That since the firm business has become unlawful, it is not possible for the firm's business to continue, the firm will be dissolved. So you can write that the firm's business has become unlawful. It is not possible to carry on the business, therefore the firm will now be compulsorily dissolved. Okay. So in this case, you can write compulsory word also. It will be compulsorily dissolved. In conclusion, let's see if they are asking us some question. Can they continue or will their firm get dissolved? So you will say they cannot continue the business, therefore they cannot continue the business. The firm will be dissolved. You can also say that as the business has become unlawful, the firm will be dissolved. Okay, so that is something which you can write over here. Let's go to the next question. What is the procedure for maintenance of books, accounts, other records, and audit of LLP? It's a theory question. It's a theory question. So I have highlighted over here. I've gone through the solution and I've highlighted for you. And I have also given you hints on how to remember the solution. Okay, how to remember the answer. See, ask yourself questions. So what is the question about? What is the procedure for maintenance of books, accounts, and other records of the other records and audit of LLP? How are they going to maintain? Where they are going to maintain? For how many years they are going to maintain? What is the other statement that they are going to maintain? What about maintenance? What about filing? So keep asking yourself questions and you will come to know what the answer should be. So if the LLP has to maintain books, accounts, records, so they can do so either on cash basis, accrual basis. Where will they preserve it? At the registered office of the LLP. So see, what will they maintain? They will maintain such books, accounts, and records as may be prescribed. So that is what they will maintain that for each year. So for every year they will prepare books, records, accounts, etc. It's a theory question. You must have gone through it. How will they prepare? Either on cash basis or accrual basis, following the double entry system of accounting. Where will they maintain? They will maintain the same at the registered office of the LLP for the period as may be prescribed. Then within 6 months from the end of the financial year, that is by 31st March year end, by within 6 months, that is by 30th of September, they have to prepare. First we are talking about preparation, then we will talk about filing. They have to prepare a statement of accounts and solvency for the said financial year, and the statement will be signed by the designated partners of LLP. So this talks about preparation. Once you have prepared the statement, you also have to file it with the ROC. So the next provision, logically speaking, comes about filing. So now you have prepared, you have also got it signed by the designated partner. Every LLP will now file the statement within the prescribed time and in the manner as may be prescribed by ROC. The accounts will also be audited in the manner prescribed. So it is a very simple answer. If you try to break it down into small parts, keep asking you question, what is the logical question, what is to be maintained, how it is to be maintained, where it is to be maintained, what about the statement of account and solvency. If you are preparing it, the next logical part is that you will have to file it with the ROC. Accounts also need to be audited. Okay, let's go through the 14th question. This is based on a case law. A transport company, okay, let's go through question 14. Yes, we have almost reached the end. A transport company wanted to obtain license for its vehicles but could not obtain the licenses if they applied in its own name. Therefore, they formed a subsidiary and applied for the licenses in the name of the subsidiary. This is based on a case law. Do you know the name of the case law? Absolutely right. It is Merchandise Transport Limited versus British Transport Company Limited. Okay. Transport Commission, sorry. So it is Merchandise Transport Limited versus British Transport Commission. Okay, correct, correct, correct. The transport company wanted to obtain license for its vehicles, but they could not obtain the licenses if they applied in its own name. Therefore, they formed a subsidiary. So what happened in that case law? The holding company, okay, Merchandise Transport Limited, they could not obtain the licenses in their own name, so they formed a 100% owned subsidiary company and they applied for licenses to British Transport Commission. Okay, so they applied to the British Transport Commission because they knew if they applied in their own name they would not be given the licenses. Now this subsidiary company had no other business, it had no other income except for being incorporated and applying for the licenses. So they were not carrying on any business, they had no other source of income. So the subsidiary company applied for license to the British Transport Commission, but the British Transport Commission, they refused to grant the licenses. So they filed a case that we have applied for it, why have you not granted the licenses. It was held that the ideally holding and subsidiary, they are considered as two separate entities. But what was the aim of incorporating the subsidiary company? The main aim of incorporating this subsidiary company was to use it as a sham, was to use it to hide that the licenses are actually applied on behalf of the holding company. So in this case, you are using the subsidiary company just like your agent. It is actually the Merchandise Transport Company Limited which is actually applying for the licenses. Yes, so you are using this company as your agent. So if this company is acting as your agent, who is responsible? Holding company. Yes, the principal, they are responsible. Also, let us discuss one step ahead. Holding company is now holding shares in the subsidiary company. Can I say that the holding company is member of the subsidiary company? Okay. Now, instead of holding the company liable, you are holding the member liable because member is acting like the principal. Yes or no? Instead of holding the company liable, you are holding the member liable. Corporate veil is lifted. Holding and subsidiary, they are considered as one commercial unit. Okay, they are considered as one commercial unit. Corporate veil is lifted, they are considered as one and the same. So it is as if the subsidiary company is applying for the license on behalf of the holding company. It is as if the holding company is only applying for the licenses. So that is why the license can be refused. British Transport Commission won the case. Yes, so that was the case law. I hope you could recollect the case law. Now the question is actually based on the case law, so it makes sense to write the name of the case law and also explain the case law. So the vehicles were transferred to the subsidiary company. Okay, will the parent and subsidiary be considered as separate commercial units? No. Ideally, they are. In this case, they are not because the subsidiary is only acting as an agent for applying the licenses on behalf of the holding company. Also, in this case, the agent will not be liable. It will be the principal who will be liable. Now, instead of the subsidiary company, if you are holding the holding company liable, it means corporate veil is lifted. Yes, Ideally, they are not liable for each other's act. But in this case, you are considering the subsidiary as your agent and performing the tasks for yourself. So the corporate veil will be lifted. Another way in which I explained it to you was the subsidiary company, the holding company is holding shares in the subsidiary company. You are the member. Now, instead of holding the company, subsidiary company liable, you are holding the member liable. It means the corporate veil is lifted. Ideally, only the company is liable for its own acts, not the members. But here, corporate veil is lifted. They are considered as one and the same. In the facts of the case, you will mention the fact that a transport company, they formed a subsidiary. They applied for the licenses in the name of the subsidiary. They were refused. In this case, the parent and the subsidiary company, okay, the parent and the subsidiary, you can use the word holding also. Parent and subsidiary company, they are considered as one single commercial unit. Corporate veil is lifted. They are considered as one and the same. Okay. So they will not be considered separate. Question 15. ABC Private Limited has been overstating expenses in their profit and loss account for the past few years. On inquiry, it was found that the mere purpose was to avoid tax. Again, this relates to lifting of corporate veil. However, there was no fraudulent intention. Should the corporate veil be lifted? Yes, even if there was no fraudulent intention, your intention of incorporating the company was to avoid, to evade, circumvent the payment of taxes. Corporate veil can be lifted. So, what is the solution? You will first explain the meaning of corporate veil, and then you will mention the circumstances where the corporate veil may be lifted. The wordings are separate. In my notes, I have simplified that. The wordings are simplified so that you can understand. So to determine the character of the company, whether the company is a friend or it is an enemy company, we will lift the corporate veil, particularly during war. Daimler Company Limited, yes, that was the case law which you must have studied here. To protect the revenue or tax, over here we have discussed the case law Dinshaw Manajik Petit versus Unknown. To avoid the legal obligation or welfare, sometimes you form a subsidiary just to act as the agent. Okay, so here the company is formed to act as agent. The question which we just discussed is based on that. Or where the company is formed as a sham, as a hoax, just to hide your fraudulent action. So these are the few circumstances where corporate veil will be lifted. So here my aim was to circumvent, to avoid the payment of tax. Corporate veil is lifted. It's a theory question. You can write it in your own words. No problem with that. Question 16. A company is registered under Section 8, Institute's favorite section, Section 8. It has been consistently making profits for the past 5 years. Few members, they also claim that they are entitled to receive dividend. Can the company distribute dividend? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. See, a Section 8 company, it has three objects. One is it is formed for a specific object, for a specific purpose, like promoting art, science, culture, education, protection of environment, education. It is prohibited from distributing the profits in the form of dividend. Whatever profit it is earning, it is to be used for the purpose for which it is incorporated. If it starts distributing profits, the license will be revoked by the central government, and the ROC will add the word limited or private limited at the end of the name. You will lose all the privileges of a Section 8 company. So in this case, it is prohibited from distributing the profits in the form of dividend to members, and if they do so, their license will be revoked. Then the ROC will add the word limited or private limited at the end of its name, but they have not mentioned all that over here. I don't know why. You will first mention what is a Section 8 company, what are the three characteristics of a Section 8 company. You will also write that if it distributes dividend, the license will be revoked. ROC will add the word limited or private limited at the end of its name, but before doing so, they will give the company an opportunity of being heard. Okay. Then Section 8 company, they have also asked that they have yes, can the maximum percentage of dividend? No, that's not possible. They've also asked one more question over here. Can the Section 8 company give a 14 days notice instead of a 21-day notice, which is normally required by the company? This is a privilege given to a Section 8 company, that they can call for a meeting by giving just 14 days notice. It is a shorter notice as required by the other companies, but yes, it is allowed in case of a Section 8 company. It is one of the privileges of a Section 8 company. So the content given in the RTP is actually very less, but you can increase the content. You can write something more than what they have written. Next, we have question 17. That is the last question of our discussion. And I hope you're now feeling very confident, right? If you are feeling confident, write in the comment section that yes, ma'am, now we are clear on how to answer these questions, what is to be written in provision, facts of the case and analysis. put a thumbs up, quickly like the video, and in the comment section also tell me confident. Okay, just write confident, and I will understand that yes, you are feeling confident after watching this video. Also, visit my website capreetiagarwal.com for lectures, books, test series, the compiler, which consists 300 case-based questions. All the past exam questions, study material, RTP, MTP questions are included there. It's a must book for exemption. Okay. Question 17. No limit private companies incorporated as an unlimited company having share capital of 10 lakh. One of the creditors has filed a case against the shareholder, Mr. Innocent, for recovery of debt. Okay. Mr. Innocent has given his plea in the court that he is not liable as he is just a shareholder. I totally agree with him. Explain whether Mr. Samuel can be successful in recovering the dues from Mr. Innocent. Not possible. In case of an unlimited liability company, what will happen? The creditors will apply to the court for winding up. They will file a petition for winding up of the company. The court will appoint a liquidator. The liquidator will go to the members, remind them that their liability is unlimited. Members will then give money to the liquidator, and the liquidator will then pay the dues of the creditor. Why can't the creditors directly file case against the member? Why go through the route of the court? It's a very simple answer, students. The creditors have a contract with the company. The creditors don't have a contract with the members. Members are in fact stranger to contract. Stranger to contract between creditors and the company. Okay. So members are stranger to contract. You cannot file a case directly against member. You will have to file a case against the company, and the company, now we are ordering it to be wound up. We have gone to the court. So that is why the court will appoint a liquidator. You will file a case. Sorry, the liquidator will then recover money from the members, and once the members pay money, liquidator will then pay it to the creditors. Creditors cannot sue the members directly because there is no privity of contract between the creditors and the shareholder. Creditors have a contract with the company, so they will file a case for taking action against the company. All right, so in this case, let's go through the answer. They have not mentioned everything properly over here. They have first explained what is an unlimited liability company. So an unlimited liability company means a company which does not have any limit on the liability of the members. They are liable to pay the entire debt of the company. Their liability is not just restricted to their amount unpaid on the shares. He will be entitled to claim contribution from others. The articles will mention the amount of share capital and the amount of his share. These are all the points relating to an unlimited liability company. Creditors will institute a proceeding. Okay, so what I discussed with you in the chart form is mentioned over here. The creditors will institute a proceeding for winding up for their claim. The official liquidators will call for the contribution, and then that will be paid off to the creditors. So on the basis of above, we can conclude that the creditors cannot file a case directly against the shareholder because there is no privity of contract between them. Shareholders are stranger to contract. Contract is actually between the creditors and the company. So in this case, he cannot file a case directly against Mr. Innocent. Mr. Innocent will be liable only up to his share in capital, unless yes, the liquidator comes and asks for money. As far as the liquidator is concerned, only then the shareholder's liability becomes unlimited. Okay, so his liability is unlimited when the official receiver calls him for the contribution towards the liability and debts of the company at the time of winding up of the company. You can write it in your own words, don't worry. This is a chart format in which I have explained the entire concept to you. Don't write this chart in the exam, but you can convert it into sentence format. So students, with this we come to an end of our RTP discussion, but with a twist. I have made you write each and every answer separately in a format which is expected in the exam, and I hope you are feeling very confident now. If you would like to study more questions, if you would like to practice more questions, because your entire paper is going to consist of case based question only, so you need to practice as much as you can, and don't wait for the entire syllabus to get over. As soon as one unit is complete, you can take up the questions. So solve simultaneously, and for more practice you can visit my website capreetiagarwal.com for the compiler. Okay, the compiler consists of all past exam study material, RTP, MTP questions. We also have lectures for business law and business correspondence and reporting. If you feel that, ma'am, I have very limited time, but I feel that I need some help for lectures, etc., because I'm not able to do it on my own, don't hesitate, students. I'll give you a 30-day calendar and ensure that you complete entire study as well as revision in those 30 days along with paper solving. So in case you have any doubt, in case you feel that you need lectures but you don't have time, we will design a timetable for you and ensure that you complete the entire portion well before the exam along with tests and prelims. So reach out to us and we will be very happy to help you. We are starting with live revision batches on 7th of November, and we will try to cover the revision in English only so that it benefits majority of the students. So before leaving, give a thumbs up to this video and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications for the revision videos.